Hi everyone. Today I'm going to be doing a swatching video of 5 green inks because I only have 5 swatch cards left in this particular pile of swatch cards which I have been working through. I have many of other swatch cards in that set, but I only have, 5 left in this, and like what a great way to use them up with the 5 green inks I have in my collection. I have more green inks than that, but those are parts of like other collections, for example, Monteverde, Sweet Life, or the Pannonia inks, several green inks, and that those like will deserve their own video. And of course I have swatched a couple of other green inks prior in like different swatching videos, so let's just get down with it. And 4 of them are Diamine. I forgot to mention that. I did say that in the like messed up intro I did before starting. This is Dark Forest, the first one, in green ink, which I got for myself. This is Woodland green. This is Sherwood green. I misremembered and thought this was called Sherwood Forest, but I really do like that, particularly in my Wars of the Roses Retro 51 fountain pen, which is a UK exclusive. I highly recommend it. It's totally awesome. This is Magical Forest, as you guys can see from the shimmer particles. This is a shimmer ink, and the last one is from Pilot, my most recent Pilot ink. Before the US price hike they have, I guess maybe now I'll have to like find retailers that sell it below what Pilot hiked it up to, or do like splurge or just wait to get from Amazon Japan, even though they have like shipping rates Amazon US doesn't have, because like it's like 2,000 yen or sometimes less, which is all of like $2 in the US. So this is Kujaku. I had to look up the pronunciation recently to make sure I was like saying it mentally correctly, because I had heard, like, I was kind of surprised, no insult to these people, but I'd heard a couple of people on YouTube recently calling it Kujaku, and I knew that didn't really sound right, like based on what I've like studied and heard of Japanese, and it is Kujaku, which means peacock. It's more of a tealy green. The rest of these, well, at least these 3 are more like traditional, like bright jewel-like tones of green. This is a much darker tone of green, which I got specifically for my Foresta Umbra Leonardo Momento Zero fountain pen. I have a whole video about that, so let's just start swatching. First up is Dark Forest, which I got as my first green ink. I believe I just mentioned that in the prior segment. As you can see from the label, this was made for Diamine's 150th anniversary celebration. I believe this year is their 160th anniversary. I just love the name, particularly because it went with the pen Foresta Umbra, but also if you know anything about me, particularly if you've seen any of my Dantean videos, I absolutely love Dante and the Divine Comedy, and this just perfectly calls to mind, Dante finding himself like lost in the dark forest, like had no idea how he got there or lost the way so badly in Canto 1 of Inferno in the very, first line. So this was just a very personally meaningful ink to me, and it does like come out very dark, but I have only currently had the experience of writing with it in extra fine and fine nib, so I have no idea how it might look in a medium pen. It might look like completely differently, and of course the swatch, which I always do with paint brushes, that's going to probably paint literally a completely different look than what I have been used to so far. Well, yeah, well, that is going down like very, very dark green, but I'm seeing a tealy color, and that definitely was not picking up at all for me, because when inks, I mean, of course, like do whatever you want. Like some people, they have to use a fine or extra fine because they don't have the best fountain pen friendly paper. That's just their own personal aesthetic. But when the ink gets so concentrated in a fairly small nib, you sometimes or often just don't see the complete full beauty of an ink's color shade or hue, or the range of undertones, or just beautiful like special properties like that, which is why I've been getting much more into medium nibs since last year. But I'm not really sure I would like regularly, like realistically, practically see myself wanting to write with a broad nib, because it's just like too big for me. It doesn't feel comfortable. I just have fairly small handwriting, but maybe for doing something special I would want a broad nib, like calligraphy or holiday cards or something like that. But it looks familiar because from what I've written with it, but it definitely is more of a bright in your face vibrant tealy color than I'm used to when I'm putting it down in this huge swatch. And I'll just do the sample writing with the dip pen Diamine Dark Forest. Let's see. Yep, that's writing how I'm familiar with it. I don't think I've used it for a while, but yeah, this is definitely one of my, favorite inks. It's just so really nice. And if you have to use certain colors of inks because so-called professionalism at school or at work, yeah, this is one I would definitely recommend. It's green, but it can, pass for black in certain nib sizes. Diamine, dark forest. Hopefully that can like squeeze in at the bottom of the swatch card. And it's kind of squeezed together, but I can see it. I'll probably have to write the name again up at the top of the swatch card. Next up is Woodland Green, which for some reason got a bunch of like red ink dried and splattered over it while it was being shipped over from the UK. But don't worry, the bottle isn't broken. None of the bottles were broken. It just something got smudged on a couple of those ink bottles and shipment. This is a lovely green. It does very much evoke the feeling of woodlands. That's one of the reasons I love the color green, like nature and trees and plants. And I also particularly love like jewel-like shades of green, like emerald, jade, malachite. Make sure there's nothing on that swatch card. I'm very particular about that. I don't want, what is this, like lint or something I just got on the card. Yeah, that's a lovely, a very, of course, different experience from dark forest. This is much lighter shade of green, and it does appear to be kind of more of a drier ink, or at least from what I'm laying down with the paintbrush. So you might want to use this in a somewhat larger nib, maybe medium and up, because like sometimes I've just been disappointed at what seemed like pretty colors and swatch cards. They just turn out like just a different experience than I was like hoping for and expecting in the fine and extra fine nibs. Yeah, there it's going down a little bit darker, but again, this isn't what I would consider like dark green by any stretch. It's more of a medium green, but it does, as I said, very much fit the mood, the feeling, the tone of the name Woodland Green. This is like, it does get a little bit darker on the very ends with the most ink laid down. It's, a very, very pretty ink. Yeah, that's a very lovely, nice, a medium shade of green, as I've mentioned a number of times. Sometimes the swatch can give a somewhat false impression of the ink as it actually writes, because you're not typically supposed to be dipping a paintbrush in ink and writing with it, even if you have like extra wide margins and stuff on your paper. That's more something you would do for artwork and like super duper fancy calligraphy or something like that. But it is like very close to what I'm seeing in the swatch, and it does kind of look a little bit darker writing with the dip pen than it does even in the lighter parts of the swatches. That's just something you should expect. Diamine Woodland Green. There's not enough room down here to write them all on one line. I'll have to be very careful about that. Woodland Green. Woodland Green. I try to avoid printing as often as I can. Like cursive is just what I used to, what I prefer. I was, taught it in the second grade, and ever since I've, that's just what adults do. Printing is more for like official forms or very, very small children. No insult to people who like never learned how to do cursive, but that's, just my generational experience. Woodland Green. This is a lovely, lovely shade of green. I'm, very glad I got it. Next up is Sherwood Green, which is one of my favorite green inks, which I have written with to date. It very much, evokes Sherwood Forest, the historical feeling. That's like pretty much the main, like only reason I decided to use it in my Wars of the Roses fountain pen, which I have a prior video about that pen. That's one of my favorites. This is really nice. It looks a lot different when I'm putting it down in a swatch. I know I sound like a total broken record. It seems to be leaning more towards, I guess, I don't know if tealy is the right word, but it definitely like maybe like a mossy green. Yeah, I am definitely seeing what do look like kind of tealy undertones. This looks completely different than when I have written with it. Am I like doing the right ink? Yeah, this is Sherwood Green. And I'm pretty sure that's the one I put in the pen, unless I had a total like weird like mix-up or something. But wow, this is definitely, it looks like a completely different experience with the paintbrush than when I've been using it in the pens prior. This looks very nice. Yeah, that's definitely looking much completely different than when I have written with it. I don't know if it's just the nature of the dip pen, but this I'll have to like hold something up to the camera to show what I've written with it. This does not look like the same color ink at all. That's just like very, very like totally unexpected. Mine Sherwood green. Hopefully this won't like be squeezed out. Sherwood wood green. Yeah, I'm kind of paranoid about accidentally writing the wrong name on the swatch by mistake when I've like done that a couple of times. And I know there's not a lot of room to like properly squeeze in the name down here. Maybe if I used like really much tinier print. Yeah, that definitely does not look at all like what I have written with prior. It's like very strange. This is an example of something I wrote with that same ink. It just like is not like seeming to look one and the same as what I have written here. And it looks like a little bit even like brighter, lighter green on a different kind of paper I've written with. This is just a very strange, like not expecting that at all. The penultimate ink and the last Diamine ink in this swatching session is Magical Forest, which is a shimmer ink. I just shook it up. Hopefully I won't have to be doing too much shaking because, you know, that's unfortunately the inevitable nature of shimmer inks. If you don't like go like really fast and like just right away, or if you're doing a dip pen or something like that, or just calligraphy artwork, you have to keep shaking it, otherwise the particles will settle immediately down to the bottom, and just do it over and over again. This is a lovely ink. It definitely evokes the feeling of a magical forest, like very fantasy fairy tale. I'm seeing like looks like more of a subtle shimmer, but this is only just, you know, beginning to dry. It'll look a little bit different possibly when I shake it up yet again. Yeah, it's going down darker, much darker green. I love green, my third favorite color. Teal is my favorite shade of green, and then I like, you know, dark turquoise, vibrant, like beautiful, like jewel-like tones of green like this, you know, like emerald, jade, malachite, and like foresty types of greens. I'm not really so much into like subtler, like muted earth tones, but of course they have, you know, the time and the place. But I really, really enjoy this ink. This is, you know, one of my like favorite shades of green I've ever worked with. It makes me, you know, want to put it in a pen right now, but I can't have like, every single pen in my collection like inked up at once. But this is just a really, really pretty ink, and I'm seeing, you know, the shimmer particles are so pretty, but of course, like, nothing compares to the star bright, like ultra super duper types of shimmery inks. Yeah, that's going down a really lovely, beautiful shade of green. Of course, because it's in the pen, it's like less dramatic, less sparkly than it appears on the swatch. But yeah, this is a lovely shade of green. I know many people might think, oh, you have one, like whatever color you have them all, why do you need more than one? But you can definitely see, particularly when they're all laid out like side by side next to one another on swatch cards. Oh, this is a little bit of a tear or something, just whatever, a snafu in that corner of the swatch card. You can definitely see like obvious differences between them. Sometimes it's more subtle when they're like more swatches and it's a bigger like gradient going from like one to the other side. But like in this case, I can definitely see like very like distinctive differences between all of these different shades. Diamine, Magical Force. Yet again, I won't be able to squeeze it all into one line. I guess I should have, you know, planned better. Magical Forest. Magical. Yeah, I'm loving this shimmer I'm seeing as this is, you know, drying up. Might have to just like, squeeze that into the bottom. I don't know, maybe I need to do my swatch cards a little bit differently going forward, or at least, you know, plan better when they have like really long titles, or as I did in the ink vent, right? The brand name on one end and the name on the other. But yeah, this is like, I really like it. And the shimmer is, I'm seeing it most pronounced in Diamine because that often does happen when you write with a dip pen. It's like thicker and the color is a little bit different for the first few words. Then it starts drying up or just like transitioning into like the color it usually typically writes as. And last but certainly not least, we have the Pilot Iroshizuku ink Kujaku, which is, means peacock in Japanese. And when I take the cap off, it definitely looks like it's leaning towards blue, and that looks inside of the like the neck of the bottle, you can kind of see kind of bluish color, but when it's on the paper, it actually leans a little bit, you know, tealy and greeny. I've been wanting this ink for quite some time. Very impressed by writing samples and swatches I've seen, and I'm glad I got it before Pilot decided to jack up their prices for pretty much, it seems like, everything in the new year. Yeah, that's definitely going down. It looks blue, but it dries up to like more of a greeny tone. I guess maybe like a blue-green might be a better way of describing it. And I know some other Pilot inks are said to it's like a magic trick. It goes down looking like it's the one color, but it starts like drying up to something that looks completely different. But yeah, this definitely is. It seems like it does seem to belong in the green family, even though it's going down blue, because you can definitely see the pretty greenish undertones coming through. Maybe it'll be more obvious when all the swatch has dried up, or in the writing sample it'll look a little bit different. But trust me, this doesn't look blue at all when I have written with it in a pen so far. This time I am not going to make the mistake of running out of rum when I'm writing it and having to like basically squeeze it all in. I'm going to write the name of the ink at the bottom and the brand up at the top, and that'll be pretty much easy because it's like such a short name. Kujaku. I love the Japanese language, like, culture, history, like religion, just pretty much everything about Japan since 1994, the summer of 1994. That's a whole like topic for its whole other video. Yeah, that didn't take up much space. Maybe I could have centered it more so there's, not so much like pronounced space on the one side and none on the other. I'm kind of like, nitpicky and pretentious about that. Just right up at the top, Pilot Iroshizuku. These are such lovely wet inks. They're very well behaved, even if they are kind of pricey. But the price does seem to be worth it. But if you're actually in Japan or in a place that's close to Japan, they're much cheaper. Just like Diamine inks are like pretty much dirt cheap on UK websites like Cult Pens, but they're like a fair bit, not like hugely expensive, more expensive, but just like not nearly that cheap when you're buying from US websites. Iroshizuku. Hopefully I don't run out of room for this one. That is a kind of, a long name. And they have, introduced 3 new inks to replace 3 other inks. It doesn't make sense how we can only have 24 inks at a time because of the solar terms in the Japanese year, the lunar cycle, whatever, and we have to retire. That's, even I think that's a little, being superstitious about lucky and unlucky numbers and dates. But yeah, this definitely leans blue, but it's very like kind of tealy when I like write with it. This right here is some writing which I recently did with Kujaku, and it does not look very similar to what it looks like on the cardstock. It's not really picking up so well on camera, but trust me, it looks like, very much more tealy in person. And the card on the cardstock, it looks more like leaning towards a more blue tone. This doesn't look like similar at all. So I guess maybe the Peter Popper press paper, it's, I don't know, maybe like it's more of a creamy tone. And of course the color of paper has, a lot of impact on what, inks register as. If you're doing like ivory or like a champagne or like a off tan and like pure white, like different inks look like different things. But yeah, this is not looking picking up as the nice tealy color at all on the camera. I'm not sure what's going on there, but it definitely looks like more towards the definite green side of the teal spectrum in person. Thank you very much for watching all the way through to the end. Please let me know down in the comments what are your favorite shades of green, do you have experiences like, oh, this looked like completely different in certain nib sizes and in certain colors of paper in the swatch card? Like, this is like, it's not all the same every single time I write with it. Does that like a happy surprise for you, or like just makes you like unpleased or something? Like you were like hoping it looked consistently the same type of color, like across pens more or less, and with artwork? Do you have like some colors that look completely like 100%, not just owing for nib size, but like this looks definitely more blue on the swatch card, and when I've written with it, it looks like more tealy green. Have you had any surprises like that when writing? So, like, thanks again for watching. I will see you guys again very soon. Bye.